Hey Gooners, this is Alan Smith.
This is Kevin Campbell.
Lee Dixon.
Colin Lewin.
This is Gary Lewin.
Charles Watts.
Dan Potts.
James Benge.
Danny.
Tom from the Gooner Talk here.
Ryan O'Cross.
Simon Collins. You may know me from the Evening Standard.
You may know me for my time at Arsenal.
You may know me from Arsenal or even the Highbury squad.
I'm a Birdcat Wonderland.
Being that physio sat on the bench next to Arsenal with my rubber gloves on.
The former Arsenal physio.
The Emirates press box, from writing, from Twitter.
From goal.com, from Twitter, from YouTube.
Football is the beautiful game and it brings us all together.
Sometimes there are things even more important than wins and losses.
And yes, even transfers.
Every 30 seconds, someone in this world gets diagnosed with blood cancer.
The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society works towards curing blood cancers
and provides support to families currently dealing with these diseases.
Gooners vs Cancer was started in 2017
by a lifelong Gooner who lost his father to leukemia way too young.
Since 2017, Gooners v Cancer has raised
$120,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
And we need your help to keep the fundraising going in this year's campaign.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
No matter the size.
And every donation enters you into the Gooner raffle,
where you have a great chance to win amazing Arsenal prizes,
including game tickets, stadium tours,
signed men and women's shirts,
and maybe a retro signed shirt by yours truly, Lee Dixon.
Me, yours truly.
Yours truly, Super Kev Campbell.
So much more.
It's easy to take part.
Just go to www.goonersvcancer.com
and donate directly to the charity.
Pick the raffle prizes you want to enter to win,
and wait for the drawings at the end of the campaign.
Again, that's www.goonersversuscancer.com.
We all know that victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
With your help, we'll be victorious against blood cancer once and for all.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you for your support.
I got to do a quick wardrobe change for our next guest.
Okay. Do you want me to? Is that the? Sorry, just dropped something. Is that the John Harkes hat?
This is. Hold on. There's a second piece to this as well. And now I'm properly representing and/or stalking our following guests. Welcome to the Gooners Podcast.
Two of my favorite men on the planet. Yes.
Warren Barton, John Harkes. There's been an absolute mare at Sophie's house. What the hell just happened? I hope this was not like an earthquake or something like that.
I'm back. I'm back. Hold on 1 second. I'll be. Okay, sorry. My dad just fed me some Greek vodka. He gave me one shot and I'm fine. I'm fine though. We've been doing this all day, John and Warren. We've been doing this all day. Mike is on hour 25,000. Tell him.
This is hour 25. It feels like 25,000. And so you guys don't know me that well yet at all, but I'm an introduction guy. So this hour is completely and totally brought to you by the Highbury squad. Thank you, Sophie, for introducing us and for allowing us to kind of have a Highbury squad-ish kind of hour, although it may just end up being me with all these technical difficulties. First up, we have a man who was born in Stoke Newington, which is walking distance from Highbury, so we can guess who he grew up supporting. He appeared on the pitch for Maidstone United, Wimbledon, Newcastle United, Derby County, QPR. Hold on, I've got to put Sophie back in the QPR and Dagon Red. Do I have that right, Warren?
Correct, my friend. You missed out England, but don't worry about it.
Well, yeah.
Really,
England as well.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. You know what it's like, John. Not too many cats, so you got to go everywhere you can.
Was it 3?
Don't matter how many it was. I've got a cat. Don't worry. Don't worry. If I was American, I would have been like Kobe, 105.
Warren.
He was loving life on the Highbury squad on the episode directly after the season's opener. And today we'll see how things have progressed since then for his Magpies. But welcome to the podcast, Warren Barton. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, absolute pleasure. And obviously it's for a great cause. And great to be around with John as well. We live in the same country. We don't really cross paths too often, but it's always a pleasure. And Sophie, you always say that about every man that you have, your favourite men, whether it's Kevin Campbell, whether it's Harksey, whether it's me, it doesn't really matter.
No, just you, Kevin and Harksey, you know,
So
and maybe Jason
people
Cundy.
who are not
Jason
her
Cundy's
business.
trying to get in there. Jason Cundy's trying to get in there, but he's got a lot of work to do. I'm just saying.
And also joining us today, whoa, we got some issues here. Also joining us today is someone whose career I've followed since very early doors. We went to the same college, just a few years apart. He played for my hometown MLS club back during their glory years, and he was notable for being the first American to play in the English Premier League with Sheffield Wednesday, where he scored the Premier League goal of the season in his first year, his first goal in England. He also played in 2 domestic cup finals in the 1992-93 season for them, scoring in one, but ultimately being runners-up. I cannot remember to which club, though.
Magic. What are you doing right there? What are you doing right there?
You are the one who reminded me of that, which I already knew. But...
No, Warren wanted me to say that out loud. That's why I did it for Warren.
Welcome to the Gooners Podcast, Gooners versus Cancer, Podathon, John Harkes. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Yeah, great to be on, guys. Thank you so much. And it was a painful time, back-to-back losses in those finals back in the day, '93. But yeah, lessons learned moving forward. And Warren, I gotta send out a congratulations to Warren and his son on his goal, by the way.
Nice.
Thank you very much, John. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's exciting, for any dad. But for a footballer that's been, such a great career like Warren, it's always difficult, I think. Yeah, people always talk about how do you raise your sons and daughters? Like, do you push them into football and all that? And it's Warren and I have had some conversations, and Milo was here, training with us for a while. And now it's good to see, his son score that goal with Inter Miami too. And it's always a special feeling, just for a father, to be proud of his kid. But if they work, they got to work for it. So it's good to see that happening right now. And Sophie, it's great to see you. Magic Mike, 16,000 hours on the podcast. What's your secret recipe? Is it bang? Is it coffee? What are you doing?
I'm not a coffee guy. I went with sugar-free Gatorades. I went completely performance enhancing free for the first 17 hours, and then it finally hit me. So I've been on sugar-free Red Bulls since then, I got to say. Okay. Speaking of DC United and speaking of Suns scoring goals, I was in attendance at your son's first goal for DC United, Eoin, which, interestingly enough, was not at RFK, was not at Audi Field, but at the Maryland Soccerplex in Boyd's during the U.S. Open Cup against a literal pub team called Christos FC.
That's right.
And
sounds like a Greek restaurant. That sounds like a Greek restaurant. Christos FC.
It was literally a Greek pub in Baltimore, I believe, that it came through the lower ranks of the U.S. Open Cup to be able to play in the third round of it or whatever, when the MLS clubs come in, and it's really kind of a cool experience. It's like seeing, the top level of soccer available in the country at a stadium where my son had played youth before at this like just sprawling complex way out in the suburbs. And, you're standing 5 feet away from them. They come up after the game onto the grass. I mean, it was almost like spring training baseball, but in a much more exciting version of that. And the pub team actually scored the first goal. And then I think Eoin had the equalizer, but how is he doing, by the way? He's playing out in Europe right now?
No, Eoin's been back for about 7 weeks with New England Revolution now.
So, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and he just scored against DC United 2 goals in his first starting game. They won 4-0. So it was an interesting emotion for him, to score against your former club. I think I don't know, Warren, if you've had that experience or not, but it feels kind of good, to know that you represented that club and to score against them, that you're still proving it. So he did well, and he enjoyed it. And, it's been going forward. They've been doing quite well, and going through a lot of adversity at that club as well. But he's doing well. It's good to have him back in the country, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did he do the whole not celebrating thing after he scored, or was there enough time in between his time?
No, I told him to run the corner and jump as high as he could, higher than Thierry Henry.
By the way, we talked about your goal of the season in your first season with Sheffield Wednesday.
What a team that was, by the way. That Sheffield Wednesday team, by the way.
Yeah, unbelievable. I believe you got promoted in your first season and came third in the top division in your second season. Does that sound about right?
That's correct. Yes.
And this goal, we were talking earlier in the FA Cup of football phrases about the phrase top bins. This, ladies and gentlemen, is top bins.
Worthington switches it to Harkes on the right. That's a good effort. Oh, what a tremendous goal by John Harkes. His first ever in English football, and one he'll remember for the rest of his days. 13 minutes to half-time, and one of the goals of the season has given Sheffield Wednesday the lead. And just decided to have a crack. And what a crack it was. To beat Peter Shilton from that range, it's got to be some shot. It was.
Oh, wow. Not only against Derby, but Peter Shilton as well. And Alan Parry, who's still working. He's doing the cold job. I didn't know that. I knew you
literally
your
goal,
first. I didn't know it was goal of the season.
I mean, how do you I mean, how does it get better from there? How could it get any better from there? The first goal you scored.
It didn't.
I opened up my eyes and I figured it out from there.
John, I said it didn't get any better from there. That's as good as it got.
I don't know, man. 2 weeks later, scored with the left foot against Barnsley, and I thought that was better. I thought it was better.
Go on, Harksy. Get in there.
I thought it was better, you know.
But it's against Barnsley, so it don't really count, does it?
Look, Shilton was still a young goalkeeper at that time, just developing. You know, he didn't have a lot of caps under us. You know, I asked him for his gloves, Warren, after the game. I asked him, like, he shook my hand and looked at me, and I said, "Can I have your gloves?" He was like, "F off."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, come on." He's like, "Leave. Take your mullet and leave."
That was a good mullet, by the way, John. That's a top shelf mullet right there.
Ever since then, I got it cut. All the power's gone out. I got nothing.
You're the Samson of football. So, John, as I mentioned, we've got a lot to talk about. First, do you still have a connection to the University of Virginia? I mean, is that still a big part of your life, or did you kind of move on from that and not necessarily look back?
No, it's no. Look, I mean, it's completely different, you know, in terms of what we go through in development, you know, in universities, especially in the States. You know, it's where you grow up, basically. I'm still connected. You know, I still have a lot of, you know, and George Gelnavach, who's managing there. You know, I played with him my freshman year there, my first year at UVA, and he was a senior. He wanted everything Warren knocked in behind, you know, like long ball, everything. And I said no, and he just got so ticked off at me in the freshman year. But yeah, we're still connected there. There's a lot of great memories, good moments, and you know, being coached by Bruce Arena there as a young player, just developing and still trying to make my way into the national team at that time. So yeah, it was an important process for me in terms of development.
How long was you there, John? How long was you there? How many years?
3 years.
So you done 2 years and then went straight to DC, yeah?
Did 3 years and then played in the Olympics with the U.S. team in Seoul, Korea in '88. And then when I came back, that's when the U.S. national team was forming completely full time. And that asked us to leave our universities at that time. When there was a kind of it was a bit of a shock. I think we didn't really know what we were doing. It was almost like they were trying to get us together so we can qualify for the '90 World Cup, and it worked, you know. So I had to make a big decision whether I stay in the university for my last year or I go and sign with the national team. And after we did that, all we were doing was like 2-week, 3-week camps here and there all over the country as much as we could to get football and get together and build chemistry and, you know, for us to be able to qualify for 90.
Yeah, so that's so alien to us where, you know, you're at university, then you have to be with a national pool, and you know what it's like, John. You spent so many years in England. It's a different animal, isn't it? Different way of doing things.
Yeah, I mean, for you, the academies is the way to go. The pathway to the pro is a true one in England. Back in the day, it was like if you're in a system, you're being looked at from every coach there is. You're being seen. Even the big games. When you go into the 17s and the 19s and the reserves, and the old school reserves that used to be there, right, Warren? And you're trying to perform every game, every training session matters, for sure, to get that pro contract in England.
So, yeah, I mean, you mentioned a guy that just like your career and my kind of connections was involved in two different stages in the same area, and that's Bruce Arena. We'll come back to him a little bit, but I mean, suffice it to say, that was the beginning of a golden era in the Virginia soccer program. I was there from 91 to 95, and those are the 4 years that they won four consecutive national championships. And it's just how were those days playing? You were playing with Tony a little bit, and what were your thoughts on Bruce kind of at that point in your footballing life? Could you tell that he was going to have a long, distinguished career in coaching at that point? What was he like back then?
Yeah, I mean, look, he was, for Bruce, his first passion is lacrosse. I mean, he was a goalkeeper who got capped with the national team as well one time, and but he was a heck of a lacrosse player. And was managing, playing and trying to follow in the footsteps of Shep Messing back in the early days, of NESL, and he was trying to get a contract here and there. And look, it was early development of a coach that knew what he wanted to do, very organized, structured, but also gave you freedom to create and to be a player. So he was great to play for. And he was no nonsense kind of attitude. His personality, I don't think has changed much. He's very blunt and straightforward. He's got that New York kind of Brooklyn attitude that comes at you. And I don't know, I just kind of embraced it, being from New Jersey at that time, Scottish family, and it was very good for me. It was excellent because he helped me not just on the field, but off the field as well.
Mike, before you carry on, can we just bounce back a little? Because I think the listeners would love to hear this. Last time we did a show with John and Warren and Rebecca Lowe, it was just when Pele had passed away. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if many people know that John had a relationship with Pele. As I'll let John tell the story, because before you get too far ahead into that, I think this is a really cool.
Yeah, we're kind of going chronologically. So, I mean, please pull me up and get I remember this story, and it's a good one.
And I know Warren loves jumping in on this too. But John, your interaction with Pele, I think the listeners would love to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate to live 20 minutes away from Giant Stadium at the time, where the Cosmos had moved into before they were in Yankee Stadium and all these other different New York kind of venues. But I was a ball boy with him, got to kind of grow up in that environment from the age of like maybe 13, 14 years old, and just kind of, in the tunnel, with Pele, Beckenbauer, Canalia, goes on and on, Stevie Hunt, all these top players. And it was quality. I mean, he treated everybody fairly. He was kind to everybody. And, you go through the years of like when he retires and what he's doing. And then I was in some media, as Warren has been in media as well and stuff like that. So you meet him in different events. And then as I'm coming out in the tunnel against Colombia in the World Cup in '94, he's standing over in the corner and he's like, John, the way he talks, and he gives me a big hug, and everybody looks at me and I'm like, I don't know how that happened, but it looked good. It felt great. And there was no questions in my mind that I was going out in the field the happiest player alive, getting a hug from Pele, one of your, a hero, for me. And he was just such a special person. He really loved the game. And he knew, similar to what we saw where David Beckham came over here in '07 and opened up the door and changed the game in our country with Major League Soccer, with LA Galaxy. And now you see Messi walking through that door, and with Inter Miami. They all kind of lead in their own way. And Pele did that for America. He just did it for our country back in the day, and he came here towards the end of his career, but he was still brilliant. And but just the way he spread the love of the game and the appreciation of the game was fantastic.
John, did you ever think, obviously, when you played, and you said about obviously Pelé, and then you go into David, did you ever think in a million years, because I've been here 15 years in San Diego, that it would emulate to where it is now, probably so quickly? I would think, because I think it was hitting a little bit of a wall, but then the academy started, and then obviously to have arguably the best, greatest player ever to play the game is now lighting it up in the MLS. Could you foresee that when you first left Virginia, was with the US, and then started with the MLS? Did you ever think it would be like that?
I don't know. It's a good question, Warren, because I think there's a lot of. I'm an optimist. I think it gives me an advantage in life, in business, everything. I'm always optimistic, even the way I coach. I'm always like, don't worry about it. Let's play the next play. And so I'm always thinking that down the line, things are going to get better. But to be honest with you, to be where we are today in Major League Soccer, to be where, both our men's and women's programs are competing at World Cups, and just the TV and the business side of it, the streaming of everything is just availability of games, interviews, podcasts like this, which are fantastic and give so much knowledge, to so many fans that love the game. I don't think so. I don't think I could ever imagine that it would be at this. And I don't know about you, Warren, but for you have had a different experience in coming from the UK and coming here and trying to raise a family and be involved in football and coaching and media and everything else. But we've all seen the game grow tremendously. I mean, it's just, and you guys know, I mean, maybe Warren, more on the business side of it. Does it take money to make money? Does it take the investment to make the clubs better, to buy the players? I mean, it's all part of it, right? It's all part of it.
Yeah. I think it's like a melting pot. And, you're talking about Bruce Arena earlier. When I first come over, I was at LA Galaxy when Ruud Gullit was there coaching the Galaxy U18s. Bruce come in, and I was in there coaching, and, he said, I had a player said to him about this kid. I said, he's a good player. I said, if he doesn't do well at soccer, he's going to end up being in trouble. And Bruce's, because of his background, was, well, no, he's got to go to college. I said, Bruce, he ain't going to college. He ain't going to go to college. And Bruce said, well, unless he does that, that's not going to happen. So that was in 08. And then you transfer now to where we are, where kids are making debuts at 15, 16 years of age. I think that showed you how much the game has changed, because Bruce has changed with it. Bruce was very much like you said, unless you're going to college, you're never going to play MLS. Well, the game has changed. And from that point of view, you look where the game's gone, and, you can see where the influence of money, John, you worked at ESPN for years. I've been with Fox for years as well. That we're still up against college sports. You're still up against the NFL. NBA has now come to it, but you're starting to be that third, fourth team club sports against baseball, hockey, with soccer breaking into it. And it was a disappointment with the Women's World Cup getting knocked out so early, the US, but it was still great for the attendance. It was still great for the game. And, the stadium was full up with fans going along, and the viewing figures was good. And it's all to do with that. The viewing figures are good. People are going to generate money. And that's now being set out for the players, and equal pay, stadiums, the facilities. It's second to none now.
Well, when I first moved here, and in fact, it's a poignant day today, but I moved here 2 months before 9/11, and I had a season ticket at Arsenal. You had football on TV all the time. And Warren will remember this, John will too. But when I first moved here, it was literally just Fox Soccer. That was it. And it was Saturday. And there was one game, and that was it. And I remember Warren came into it after, and Max Bretos. And, it was to see the game evolve the way it has. And I do think the Premier League, Bundesliga, the international game, and you guys who've played the game can tell me, I think it helped elevate everything here. But to see MLS grow the way it has over the last few years, I mean, I remember first covering LA Galaxy in the Ruud Gullit years, and it was a disaster, Warren, wasn't it, really? People just think they can come here and manage and it's easy, but it isn't. Every league has its own culture, its own system. And then once Bruce came in, he changed everything. The game, to see the game evolve the way it has is quite incredible. And I also think that's a lot to do with players like John going to Europe early, and then you've got the Clints and the Brian McBrides and all those who followed. Landon, remember when everyone was kind of poo-pooing him going on loan to Everton, but
clearly had a great loan spell there.
Yeah. It was unreal, and it's amazing to see where everything is today.
He only went for 3 weeks. John was out there for 7 years. he only went for a tourist visa.
A cup of
No,
coffee.
but it was great. It was a great loan deal.
You said about John being in the locker room with some great players, Carlton Palmer, Chrissy Waddle, Dave Hurst. Not only was they great players, they were funny people and good people. And I was in the locker room with people like Vinnie Jones, John Fascio, and then you have the likes of Alan Shearer, Ginola, Ferdinand.
Espria.
Landon wouldn't last 5 minutes. I've worked with Landon. Would he, John? He wouldn't last 5 minutes.
I wanted to ask you basically
I love this.
What was playing with Vinnie Jones like? I mean, better than playing against him, I would imagine. But I mean, was the guy as crazy as he was made out to be?
Well,
oh no, Vinny's just showed up at his house.
Vinny just nutted Warren.
Yeah. Vinny just grabbed
Vinny's
me
outside. He just pulled the plug on Warren.
Vinny just grabbed me somewhere like he did with Gaza.
Exactly.
My first interaction with Vinny is that he was playing for Sheffield United with people like Billy Whitehurst. John will know who he was.
Yeah.
He would eat his grandmother, Billy Whitehurst. He was a hard man. So I'm playing for Wimbledon, blonde hair, got Vinny's number 4 shirt on. I go near the touchline where Vinny's getting warmed up and Billy's there. And he said, "Oi, pretty boy, you come near me, I'm going to break your legs." So that was the first interaction with Vinny. Then...
Wait a minute, how did you know he was speaking to you?
Because I was the only one there.
Pretty boy.
Nice one.
If you see the Wimbledon boys, they weren't that good.
Okay, fair enough.
There's a
point taken.
A few of them interbred. They weren't actually good looking.
Right, you're up 1-0. Go on.
You're up 1-0. So then my second interaction with Vinny is I'm at Wimbledon. I've got number 4. We have a great idea, joking here. Why don't we sign Vinnie Jones from Chelsea? Thought that would be great. So I'm now sitting on the floor having a stretch with the boys. Vinny comes walking over. He went, "Oi, Barton." So I'm thinking he's going to say, "Hello, how are you? I've just got in the England reckoning." He went, "I'm taking your number 4 shirt. Is that all right?" I went, "Yeah, Vinny, no problem at all. You can take what you like. You take what you like, Vinny." He went, "Good. At least we got that straight," and then walked off. And that's my 2 interactions I've had.
Before you actually answered, there's another part. You started flipping your hair back.
Yeah.
Like, hold on, Vinny. I'm not done yet.
Yeah, you had your mullet. I had my centre parting.
You had the blonde locks. Come on, you were gorgeous George hanging out playing footy.
I was Don Johnson. Me and Robbie Earl was croquet. Me and Robbie Earl was croquet
Don Johnson, by the way.
Croquet and Tom's.
Me and Robbie, when we shared together, we was.
You had the soundtrack playing behind you.
Oh yeah.
Warren, what year was that? Because we were talking to Smudger earlier, and we were talking about you lot. What year was that?
I would have been there like 89 after the cup final, and then I was like 94. I left and went to, and we had great times. I mean, John. We reminisce about the Premier League, and it's great what the Premier League is now and what it's become and the interaction. But the times that we had at the beginning, early 90s, and when it started into the Premier League, like mid-90s, towards the end of that decade, it was phenomenal times. It was so exciting. You know, a country that lives and breathes its sport, its football, and then to be that young in the middle of it all, John, was brilliant. You know, great characters, great people, stadiums, the sense of humour. The life, we can't ever emulate that. And John was talking about my son and his son. I would love them just to experience that because it's so unique, it's so special. But particularly that time in the 90s and early 2000s, it was it was really moving on to the next level to make it what it is now. I mean, it's so well marketed. NBC do a great job with Rebecca and the Robbies and Tim and that. But we had a lot of fun out there, John. And these memories, you could just sit here as we do, reminiscing and just start laughing about things because it was such a good time. I think anyway.
In that moment of time, though, the early 90s, again, with it being very, very rare at that point, I'm always fascinated by kind of what the mentality was and the thought process was. And in this case, it's the mentality and thought process about an American for the first time playing at the very top levels in the Premier League, I guess. So, were you aware, Warren, as in that moment in Wimbledon, not yet knowing Harkes personally, were you aware of him being an outlier, and were people talking about it? Were people aware of it, or was it just basically just another footballer?
I think it was a mixture of both because he was in a very good team. And Kobe come over, obviously, and went to Coventry. That was a good team at the time. And I managed to kick the crap out of him, Kobe, and he lasted about 60 minutes, and he got the shepherd's hook. He got whipped straight off. So he didn't last an hour. And I keep reminding him every time I see him as well. But no, I think John and Brad Friedel, that group that was coming over, Casey Keller, was good players and good people, and they integrated well with everybody. So it laid the foundations for another good player, Brian McBride. Clint come along. So it was never seen as like, well, they're coming from America. And that's why when I worked for Fox for 15 years with the Premier League, and they was talking about Christian Pulisic, it's like, can you please get out the fact that he's American? He's a good player. John was a good player.
Right.
Brad was a good player. Whether he's American or from South Africa or Argentina, it doesn't really matter. It's if they're a good player and if they can handle that pressure that goes with playing at the highest level. John mentioned it. I never said anything before, but he said every training session mattered. You imagine John had an iffy training session on a Monday morning. Colton Palmer, Chrissy Waddle. The next morning, John's walking into a changing room and to a training session. He knows he's got to be at his best because if he has two, he may not play the weekend. Yeah. Is that fair, John? Would you say fair. That was? Yeah,
absolutely fair. Yeah,
and that makes.
I think being the foreigner, back in the day, was you only allowed 3 per team, and that made it even harder.
Harder. You had to have like 8 or 9.
There was 3.
Right? Yeah, it was difficult, and it was in that transition, like Warren said, because it was the old Division 1, 2, and 3. I came into Wednesday when we were old Division 2, got promoted to 1, which was the top in the league. And then the next year after that, it became the Premier League. So it just changed names. But then the inclusion, I think, and Warren mentioned it, it was just more international players now became that destination for the UK. And the Premier League started to grow and develop, and there was more players. You're rubbing elbows with so many internationals now, in the Premier League. It's unbelievable. But it was the early stages of that development of the league itself, and that was a go-to destination for so many great footballers around the world that just wanted to come over. And it was such an incredible time for us. And like you said, I think it was hard. There was a lot of hard men playing the game. I think Ray Hudson said Harkes went over there when guys had tattoos on their tongues. And Warren, I've got to check your tongue. Do you have one? Anyway.
I was a pretty boy. I was never having tattoos.
Warren.
Yeah. So it was that type, but the camaraderie, and which was done through, you can be hard, but you can also have the balance of the sarcastic kind of humor. And I think just being accepted in that was pretty amazing. And then you get to play and compete in League Cup finals, FA Cup finals, and big things for your club. Sheffield Wednesday hadn't had a lot of success for a long, long time. One of the oldest founding clubs, and it was just a special time. Warren knows when you're winning games and there's a swagger about your group, and you've got guys like Nigel Pearson and Viv Anderson leading the line and telling you, what you're not doing well, but managing you off the field too. Just good people, like guys to look up to, Chris Waddle, John Sheridan, it goes right through. Nigel Worthington, thank God he gave me that ball for the goal. And, it's just like there's so many players that you, and I still keep in contact with them, which is great. I mean, you're talking 30 odd years ago. I mean,
I think Viv Anderson owes Kev like £100 in cleaning boot fees. Easy.
Yeah, because Kev should have paid Viv to clean his boots. Actually.
Yeah, that's what Viv said to him.
Yeah, exactly. Viv was a player. He was a very, very good player. Anyone that doesn't know Viv Anderson, look him up. He was a hell of a player and another good character. And people don't realise about Sheffield Wednesday in particular. It's a massive football club, and you look at the Championship and lower leagues. Both of us play for Derby County, another good club, another a sleeping giant if it can get its act together. And that's why it makes it so tough to be in the Premier League, because there's so many big clubs that are not in the Premier League that probably deserve to be in there with the history, tradition, and the fan base. But it's such a unique market and such a tight market to get into. But it's such an exciting league, and like John said, the humour. The more people make fun of you, the more they love you. I always found that out. And that's you always used to think, oh, why are you picking on me? It's, well, because we love you, and that's part of that.
It's like if I'm not having to go at you, that means I don't care. So
the only thing worse than being rude to somebody is apathy and just not caring about it. And
I say that to my kids. If the coach stops talking to you, that's time to worry. So, that's where they are.
We've got 103 in live chat. Please hit the like button, but more importantly, please head to goonersvcancer.com. We are in uncharted territory right now. We have, in this podcast week, starting on Tuesday and going through the 25th hour of the show, we have raised $13,032 compared to last year's $6,186. Pretty incredible. We've raised $28,332. We have a goal of 30,000. That goal.
We're going to get to it, Mike. We're going to get to that.
That goal was from when we started through the end of June next year. So look, if we can hit that goal today, that would be unbelievable. But yeah, things are going fantastically. We got a few player draws left. We got
guys. Is that goonervcancer.com?
It's goonersvcancer.com. And if you go the American way and do Gooners versus Cancer VS, that'll also take you there as well. So either way, V and VS. I sprung for 2 domain names.
All right. Very good. Very good.
So
Mike, I have a quick one for these guys before you take over the reins on some. I have to get this question in because I know it means a lot to John, and I know that Warren, just being an England player as well. I would love to get these guys' take because we haven't had an opportunity to chat with them. And I know there's a lot of listeners here in the US that like to learn history, but I wanted to get you guys to just talk about Trevor Francis for a minute. And of course, Chris Bart-Williams. And I know how, especially for John, like he kind of felt like he lost 2 brothers. But I mean, Trevor Francis, the first £1 million player, what a legend, Nottingham Forest, 2 European Cups, Cloughie. John, from you first, the listeners do love to learn their history about the game. Trevor Francis, what a player.
Yeah, a fantastic player. And funny enough, I showed him a picture of me and him when I was 11 years old in Detroit, when he was playing for Detroit Express, because my Aunt Ethel actually ran the books there in the club. So to come full circle for him to manage me, he was just like, wait, what? I'm like, yep, that's you in the white shoes.
Aunt Ethel. Everyone should have an Aunt Ethel, shouldn't they?
Aunt Ethel. Oh, God bless her.
I had an Aunt Lily.
Hey, what a name. Ethel McNaughton. Ethel McNaughton. She was fantastic. But, he was – and look, and Trevor was in a process of learning to be a manager. And he was, came under Ron Atkinson's wing. And then when Ron went to Villa and then, he got his opportunity, and he was a great guy, always willing to tell stories and share with you what it was like back, for his days and his development. But what so many achievements, what he accomplished. And, we had a lot of success under Trevor. We went to 2 cup finals. Unfortunately, we lost both of them to the Gooners. But
And
it was
Super Kev.
heartbreaking. But yeah, I mean, look, he was with QPR, years before that, trying to be a player manager as well.
Back in my day, I remember him from QPR with the hoops from when I was there in the late 80s, I think.
Yeah. So
and for Warren as like a England player, and I mean Trevor was a pioneer, wasn't he, Warren?
Yeah, no, I mean not only being in America, but when he was in Italy, what he did, and you said the first £1 million player. But whenever I think of Trevor Francis, I'd worked a lot with him with Sky, was his knowledge about the game and wanting to talk about it. I never played under him, but as an England player, but always like trying to find the best way to get a system or best out of a player, and always had that sense of humour, always had that fun about him. But he learned a lot, obviously, when he was in Italy. He's been successful as a player. But like Ray Wilkins, very similar to Ray, like they would talk about soccer for hours, and it wouldn't just necessarily be about them, because they could do. You talk about Ruud Gullit. When you spoke to Ruud, it was about what he did. It wasn't necessarily sometimes about the game. But Trevor would always say that. And with Chris Bart-Williams, me and Chris come from Leyton Orient. Chris went off to play for obviously Sheffield Wednesday, but I'm obviously older than Chris. But Chris had come through Leyton Orient, and I knew about him, which is a lower team in England that's probably in the 4th division now, the 4th tier. And just a lovely kid. That's how I think of Chris, because he was always smiling. He always had a little edge about his music he liked, his fashion. He was always a little bit ahead of the game, with certain things, but still had that lovely, soft-spoken kid, and hell of a player. When he was only like 16, 17, he was playing against men. He was playing well. And another person we lost far, far too early. But, Chris was a good player. But when I think of Chris, I always think of him as that stylish kid, and he always had that smile about him as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking of it as you were telling that story. I was just thinking of him laughing at one of our cup games we had away at Blackburn, and we ended up winning. We went down. Roy Wegerle actually scored against us early.
Wow, there's a name from the past, right?
Wow. Roy scored against us, and
he was a dual national, right? U.S. and was Roy Wegerle a dual national, both American and English?
He had 3 nationalities. I think he had. Didn't he have 3?
Jason Bourne.
Yeah, he is Jason Bourne. He had
3 nationalities with 8 passports.
Yeah, but I just remember Chris Bart-Williams, just a talented player. I mean, you said it, Warren. Just so skilled and always thinking about the game, and so good in tight spaces. His first touch away from pressure. But that Blackburn game, he actually clipped the ball in for me for a dive and header when we were celebrating. And he was like, the way he talks, he was yelling at me like, Hoxie, you think you're Superman? You can't dive and head the ball. I was going to kick your head off. And I was like, Chris, great ball, son, let's get back. We got at the time or something. But he was joking, always big smile. And God, I mean, I was just so depressed when he passed away. I mean, it's just so sad. But great people in your life. It's very fortunate to have them.
And thanks for sharing that, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I love. I mean, it's incredible how much just the stories and the banter, and you could just go probably for hours talking about these things and where you guys intersect and the people that you intersect through. I want to talk about one more kind of period of time because John, you had 6 successful seasons in the top flight of England, or 6 in 5 in the top flight, 1 being promoted back up to the top flight. And then you returned to the States to join the brand new domestic league, Major League Soccer. And you land in my hometown of Washington, D.C. with DC United, once again playing for Bruce Arena. What was the mechanism behind, I think you were in your late 20s at the time. What was the mechanism behind the decision to leave England at 29 or so and come back to the States? And how do you end up getting allocated to Bruce's team and to DC in specific?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was, Derby County, as Warren, played for as well. Great club, old historic club. Lionel Pickering was the owner at that time, and they wanted us to get them back to the top flight. And there was a lot of young players in that dressing room. So that was a good experience for me as well. Not so much success in terms of us making it there, but at the same time, just a growing period. And the league bought my rights from Derby County in anticipation of Major League Soccer starting in '95, which it did not do. So West Ham came in for me and said, we'll take you on loan. And I was like, a chance to work with Harry Redknapp and Frank Lampard Sr. And I'm like, wow, some of the players on there, Moncur and, quality, Alvin Martin, like really good players. I was just like, go to West Ham, go to London. Yeah, before I go home, that would be nice. Yes, thank you. So that was a great experience for me. And then just through the process of where we were going to go, like Metro Stars, where I grew up playing in my old stadium, and Giant Stadium would have been fantastic. Charlie Stilitano was involved in that from a general manager standpoint. But they were trying in the league to spread out as many U.S. international players as we could in all different places to help grow the game. For me, it was a no-brainer. I knew Kevin Payne from the U.S. Soccer Federation early days. And Kevin was always a tremendous leader. Rest in peace, Kevin Payne. Great love for him as well. He passed away last year. And so, you look at him and they were signing Bruce, and I was like, no brainer. Yes.
Sometimes things just kind of all fall together.
Bring me back. And then, but even though you're going back into the unknown, you're going into, I think we lost Sophie down the stairs.
Yeah, is Sophie okay?
Sophie's fallen down the stairs 8 times.
No, it's my phone. It's my phone. My phone holder. I don't know what's wrong with it. It keeps collapsing on me. It's pathetic. So here we go. That's why I'm holding it.
25
I know what to get you for Christmas, Sophie.
Yeah, John. I need a phone holder in my stocking, please. Yes, thank you. I'll just hold it up with my finger.
Bruce Arena, no brainer. Club with Kevin Payne running it. Just in terms of the culture, what they wanted to build. We got into one major building. We had a training field out back, front office, top level, team below it. Everybody was together. It was one club. That was, to me, was the best start I could have had coming into the unknown of Major League Soccer. Is it going to work or not? Two terrific people running the club. So
it worked well for DC United those first 2 seasons. I'll tell you that. I mean, it was, and I'll never forget. There was a game, and I hate to say this, but as far as the choice that I made that day, but I think it was the second MLS Cup final, and at that point they played the MLS Cup final essentially in the stadium of the higher ranked team, or it was the home game essentially for I think, and was that the rainy game? Like it was just incredibly rainy. And my wife and I that year, we had season tickets like that we had bought from somebody, rented essentially a ticket for the season for the Washington football team, the American football team, like 4 rows away from the pitch. So we were, how is that possible? Actually, maybe this wasn't at RFK then. It couldn't have been
at RFK '97 against Colorado. 57,000 plus people in the pouring down rain. So the first 2 finals, one is at Foxborough in a nor'easter storm for 3 days. We're all like squeegeeing like water off of it. And Warren's probably there going, we've got to cover this.
I just remember going to the American football game, taking the metro, the underground, from stadium to Bethesda, where my then fiance was living, and then on the television from Bowie Mongers in Chevy Chase watching the MLS Cup final. And that for some reason I was thinking it was at RFK, but that would have been impossible because that's where we had just come from. But it was an incredible start with two championships, and then the third year was a loss in the final.
Yeah.
And John, when did you leave there? Sorry, John, when did you retire? When did you leave there? Because we played DC in a friendly Newcastle in 2000 or 99, I think it was. We come over to Georgetown and Columbus Crew. Would you have been playing in that team?
No, I was up in New England with
New England. Okay,
99 and 2000. So after the first 3 years, we had won 5 titles, and it was kind of like break up the team a little bit. And just to let you know as well, Warren. That area has never been the same since you guys were there.
Georgetown, never been the same.
They haven't recovered. They haven't recovered yet.
Nor have I, actually, to be honest.
There's a lot of magpies still there, by the way.
Yeah.
Which area are you talking about?
It would have been the
Georgetown.
Georgetown, yeah. We got lost in there a few times. So Bobby did a curfew, right? We'd flown in with Virgin. First time I've been on a Virgin flight. and it had the bar on there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the worst thing. So you've got Big Duncan Ferguson, Gary Speed, another one. God rest his soul. Big Al was there, and anyway, we're in there. So Bobby's at the front. So I've sort of woken up because Gary's got that little squeaky laugh. So I'm thinking he's had a drink. So I've got up there. We're getting the Virgin Coke. The guy's pouring it. It's Virgin Coke, but it's about that much vodka and about that much Coke. Kieran Dyer loves a drink but can't drink. So he's now on his second one, and now he's going loopy. We've still got another 6 hours to go. We're flying across. So all of a sudden, like, Kieran, calm down, have a little sleep. We'll be okay. No. Now he wants to fight the world, but we're 30,000 feet up in the air. So Bobby comes over. So I've never seen so many people get sober as quick as they can. What's going on here? What's going on? You know, he's got his shades up here. He's got his earplugs hanging out. So we're all halfway through these about 4 or 5 of these Virgin Cokes. Are you all right? Are you drinking? I said, no, Gaffer. You know, here it is. It's a Coke. But we had a Coke there and we're all drinking these Cokes. I said, oh, no, we're just having a Coke. So here's a drink. He goes back, takes the tablet. Obviously, then we land, get into the hotel. He said, right, fellas, you might have a bit of jet lag. You've got to be in at 10 o'clock. Now, we don't know whether that's AM or PM. So we've gone out.
Unbelievable.
So we've gone out into Georgetown.
It's a wide margin of error right there.
Exactly. It could be anything. We don't know whether it's UK time. He didn't say, Harkes. You know what it's like? You've got to specifically say. So we're finished now. We've ended up finding a club. It must be like 2 o'clock in the morning. We haven't slept, but we've got ourselves together. So we say, right, let's go round the back. You know, we've been around the block a few times. We go to the valet guy. Is there a back entrance? We got to get up there because we know Bobby's going to be in reception having a coffee like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, just waiting. Or Mick Wadsworth, John Carver will be hanging around. So we go around the back. Alan, all of us get in our room, have a good night's sleep. The foreign lads come walking through. They come walking through reception, been having their coffee, had some food, gone to bed. So about 9 o'clock in the morning, we get a phone call from the kit man. The gaffer wants you in the room. He knew you went out. So I phone up Alan Shearer, our captain. Said, Big Al, listen, we're in trouble. The gaffer knows. He went, I never went out. I put the phone down. So now we go into the room.
Wow.
We go into the room and the gaffer's right. I'm disappointed in you lot. It's terrible. So at the back, there's me, Gary, Shay Given as well. We're thinking, we've got to hold our hands up and say, look, sorry, gaffer, we couldn't sleep. He went, why can't you be like this lot? He pointed to the British lads over here, you know, going to bed, getting ready for training. And all you lot, like Nikos Dabizaz and Alan Gomez, all these, Nobby Solano, coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning. What do you think's going on? It was like, you're disgusting, fella. You know, you're out of order. How can you go out? You're representing Newcastle. He said, they all got fined a week's wages. We got away with murder. We come in at 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow. They come in at 11 drinking coffee. And then we played your team, DC, and we lost 3-1. And there's a wonder why we lost 3-1 because we was not in a good condition, actually. But there you go. There you go. That's our thing.
That's a great story.
That is a good story.
We have a few.
Sir Bobby, by the way. Wow.
Sir Bobby, what a legend.
Wow.
But Magic. Would Tony Adams have responded the same way as Shearer there, Magic Mike? I don't know about that. What do you reckon?
Probably not. I think it might have
Shearer had an image. Shearer had an image to keep. You know, that squeaky clean image.
Yeah.
Shearer was his one-hand celebration, and Tony always had his hand up for offside. Both the same.
I wanted to make sure to get to a couple of our listeners or our viewers' questions because there's some good ones in here. And the first one comes from my dear friend Laurie Laker, expat living in Minnesota. John, given your parentage, did you ever consider playing for Scotland over the U.S.?
You know, it was brought up quite a few times back in the day when I was younger. I guess because I was raised in the U.S. at that time, you don't realize it, but the more that I went back to Scotland, it was kind of like, wow, you get torn emotionally. You're like, man, to wear the badge of Scotland would have been pretty cool. But I just grew up there and I got early opportunities with the U.S. men's national team. So it was almost like that was a logical pathway for me to play at the highest level. But yeah, it was discussed with my son quite a bit actually when he was at Dundee United as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he did go from DC over to Dundee and then back to New England, right?
Yeah.
The next question is from Seth Thomas. Either one of you, will MLS ever move to relegation model? Should it, and when?
I pray. I hope
but
so.
Who are the obstacles in the way of that right now?
The 500 million investment you got to make as an owner. You're going to get relegated. Sorry, it's not happening.
That's exactly
Never.
Right.
I think USL are going to try it, aren't they? USL. They're going to
USL.
try it.
Yeah. There's been a lot of discussion for the last 2 years. I'm lucky enough to be part of the competition committee. We hired a third party to actually do the study on it. And it was in a positive favor to actually go forward with it. It's just convincing some of the USL championship ownership groups that paid maybe a higher fee for their club to go involved in this as compared to USL, not just the championships, but the USL League One. But I do think that it would make every game matter. I think the level of play would be higher. Fans would enjoy it more. There's stories to tell at the end of the season. We all know that. I think it's necessary for our game to evolve even more.
Yeah, but there's such a financial conundrum to try to figure out and to make it work. And it's, I'd like to see it in every sport. But it's just, you can't, how can you put the cat back in the bag or whatever the.
Yeah, but I don't even know though, Mike, what is the financial conundrum? I mean, you spend the money, I get it. It to me, it doesn't make sense. You pay $500 million for a franchise in San Diego and you can buy 3 clubs in England for that. Like, who's putting the value on that and the operating costs? And then within the league, there's not a big discrepancy in terms of travel costs and everything. It would be fantastic. If anything, join the 2 leagues together in USL if you want, and then just have promotion relegation for the USL 2, and you make it into the conferences across the country like you did for NFL with so many teams playing. But I think it would be fantastic to go from USL League One, you win the championship, you go up to the championship, and you play in there and you see if you can hang in there. And I mean, it would be brilliant. It would be great.
Well, the question is there a team that goes up to the MLS and does DC United end up going down? That would be an interesting thing for me to see. Look, I would love for it to be the case. Here's what the last 5 minutes of this hour are going to look like. I'm going to put up a question from David Ziegler. Sophie, will you ask the question? Of course. I'll ask the question, and then I'm going to step away for about 45 seconds, if you know what I'm saying. Because at this point, I just have to be open about it. I've been drinking a lot of sugar-free Red Bull, and no, I'm not wearing a diaper, so I have to actually get up. And then we'll come back. We'll do our prize draw, and then we'll get stuck into the penultimate hour of the podcast. So the question is, would player development in the U.S. be improved if the NCAA partnered with the USSF, the U.S. Soccer Federation, and the professional academies, raise the level of competition for young players to provide paths? And I will be right back.
Sorry, the minute you asked me to actually do something, I got cut off.
Yeah,
this is what happens when you're in the middle of Cyprus. I mean,
where are you when I need
Warren?
you?
I know. I'm in the middle of nowhere in Cyprus. So you're lucky I'm actually getting some type of connection here. Warren would know. John, have you ever been to Cyprus? I know Warren has.
No, but my dad has in the British Army. That's where he was based.
I remember you telling me that story. Yeah. So
yeah.
I've been to Ayia Napa. Can't remember it, but
of course you have, pretty boy. Pretty boys all go to Ayia Napa.
I'll be right back, but our listeners would love to hear the answer to the question.
Okay, so did Mike ask you the question? Are you guys okay? So Warren, you hit it first.
Yeah, I think with the college setup, it should be split into 2 seasons that matter, because I think at the moment the full season, and then you come into spring, and the games, are not competitive enough. Going back to what John was saying, that the games really matter. So I think that should be brought into it for the college players as well. I think also, you still don't want to go away from what the US is about. The college does a lot of good things. Obviously education gives people the opportunity to do it. Maybe there's a way with the academies playing against each other, bringing them in. John, I don't know whether that's something that's been spoke about. But I think you don't want to go away too much about the American culture and what it brings, because college brings a lot of good things to the table. I just think they need to improve their seasons, and also coaches. I think coaches is the main thing. They've got to be educated. They've got to have their license. They've got to be at a high level. Probably most of them are, but where's the experience? Where have they coached? Who have they played under? Who have they, gone to learn things off? Because we're always learning about the game. Whether the USL 1 or USL 2 could come into some conferences, so you're playing against them. A lot of them would play pre-season games, but I mean, if you could play competitive games against each other, the more games kids play at a competitive level, the better they're going to be. And so whether you're an 18-year-old boy at an academy at Inter Miami, and then you go and play Georgetown that's got a 22, 23-year-old that's looking to get drafted, that's going to benefit their development as a player. So I think there's room for working together. The only thing that I've always found in club soccer and soccer across the States, the country's so big and there's so many different leagues and there's so many people want a piece of the pie. Sooner or later, it has to come under one umbrella, I think, going forward.
What do you think? What do you think, John? It always feels like the drafts for all the other sports are so exciting, and it feels like for football it's underwhelming. What's your take on it all?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, hello to David. I know David Ziegler. I think it's interesting the question itself, based on the mission statement, or the vision of our development in the U.S. Soccer Federation. Would they be able to partner with an NCAA? I don't even know if that would even work, based on relationships, But I would say this: like, if you are able to extend the college season, like Warren was talking about, but somehow kind of have programs where their collaboration is that they are overseeing the academies, so there is a direct result in some players are going to be able to go straight into the colleges, whereas others, like Warren mentioned earlier in the podcast, there's a lot of kids now, 15, 16, 17, signing pro contracts now and not even going to the university levels. A lot of the university levels now have probably 75 to 85% foreign players competing at the university level as well. So if you're looking at the American players' development, there's not a lot of opportunity to get to some of the top D1 schools currently, unless that player is a top American player. So if you are going to go and collaborate the NCAA with, the U.S. Soccer Federation, it would probably develop players at a younger age group sooner. Yes, I think it would, but there has to be so much open discussion about how does that platform really look? What does that really look like? Who's managing that platform? Because we all know it's about money, ego, who's in charge of what. I mean, that's been the biggest issues why federations for so long have issues with players and payments, and it's unbelievable. So it's something that needs to be collaborated at a younger age group, but I don't know if those two would ever come together, honestly. I think it would be good for our system. I do. I really do.
All right, perfect. Good answer. And I'm hoping this can be a quick answer, just so that we stay on our track. But you mentioned academies, and you mentioned academies bypassing the NCAA, and having just brought my child through soccer starting at age 4 and going all the way through where he's now 20, and just he's just going to JMU now. He's not in the soccer anymore, but he was at a pretty competitive level for a while, and ultimately kind of decided he wanted to be less competitive. What's the future of high school soccer? What is the meaning of high school soccer? Is it just ultimately kind of recreational at this point?
Yeah, like a hobby. Feels like a hobby, doesn't it?
It's interesting. I'll answer that real quick, Mike, because I'll answer that real quick because my son was probably in that era at the time where they were the high school and they were transitioning. Like, you can't play high school, you got to be in the academy only. Mm-hmm. And in my son Eoin, I thought he was going to benefit from the high school coach that he was with at Gonzaga College High School down in DC, where he traveled every day. I wanted him to go on the metro, and we would drop him off once in a while, but it was part of his growing up period. So it was 30 minutes each way. And I said, well, the coach that's there, Scott Waller, who's had so much success, he's not only developing good footballers in the high school levels, but he's also developing good people. So I want him to have that experience. So my wife and I, Cindy, were both like, well, why can't he have both? And just that 6 months afterwards, it was like, okay, you can play both now. And they started to transition that and say, yeah, as long as it doesn't conflict with each other, because they're all going to develop in different ways, depending on what their responsibilities with that team is. So with his high school team, he played more like an attacking 10 role. So he's scoring goals and he's finding the game as a transition number 8. With DC United, they put him more of an 8 and a 6 to build out of the back. So he got the best of both worlds there. And we feel like we benefited from being in both of those.
Yeah, I did exactly the same, John, with my son Ty.
Yeah.
You know, he loved being and also being in the high school, you know, being part of the school. If you're turning your back on your peers and, oh, I can't play with you, I've got to do academy.
Yeah, playing with friendships is very important. Playing with friends is huge.
Yeah, and where we are, there's some big high schools here, and he really developed well, more off the field and leadership that he did on the field. I mean, because the quality's maybe not as what it should be, but I think it's a big part. Going back to I said, it's a part of the American culture, representing your high school. Back in England, I couldn't wait to get out of my high school. I hated it, so I didn't want to be there. But the Americans, it's a big part of the community and things like that. So he benefited a lot from that.
This was the whole thing for my son, and he was in the chat a little while ago because I think he was waiting for his car to get inspected. But so I don't know if he's Jake. If you're in here, let me know. But his trajectory was, very, very competitive travel programs, very, very competitive travel programs, kind of going from being the U9 that was just dominating everything to bigger, stronger kids maturing physically faster than he was, mentally, emotionally, maybe a little faster than he was. And then ultimately we said, let's stop pushing this so hard. Go and have fun. You score goals in bunches, you used to, and now you're not enjoying it anymore. So we went kind of back down to rec, and his ultimate goal was to represent his high school.
Yeah.
Socially, it made a difference to him. He felt proud to do it. His senior year, he won the Golden Boot for his, for his team, and it was just a very, very, very good experience for him. And he knew at that point that there was no competitive soccer coming beyond that. But I think it meant the world to him. So I'm really glad that we didn't just keep pushing and pushing in that competitive area. And that's a whole nother hour conversation about how to handle kids who
We'll do a follow-up with this is like we were talking to Nick Ramsdale about this with Aaron's journey and being a parent of an athlete and navigating through that and the sacrifices that you make. And it's a really fascinating conversation.
When to know to stop pushing that particular pathway, in fear of kind of ruining the love of the sport. So we are going to draw for and Lori, you had a great question. There were a few more great questions in there. I'm sorry we've run out of time for that, but hopefully we've been able to give you a really good hour with Warren, Barton, and John Harkes. This has been a real treat for me. We're going to draw the winner. Now, this prize, is this the one? Yes, it is. This prize is the most unique prize we have. And if you watched any of our promotional podcasts on Sophie's channel, on Harry's channel, on Tom's channel, it's not a coin, it's not a jersey, but I think it's more valuable than all of the above. It is well, let me just show you a picture of what it is.
These guys will laugh their ass off. This
is the name placard for Mikel Arteta from the
MLS All-Star Week.
So right, okay. Did you get it signed at least?
It's better than signed, John, because Sophie signed a declaration in front of a notary public and a priest that declares that she saw a significant amount of spittle leak out of his mouth and land on this placard.
It is.
This is a prize for 24 hours. God knows what prize you're going to have for 27 hours then.
I mean,
no, he's already given away Alan Smith's '89 shirt. I mean, we've done all that.
Oh my
I mean,
God. What a great player.
I don't have Alan. Well, no, it's a retro '89
A
replica
shirt.
signed by Alan Smith. It's not the one he wore in 1989. Believe
Thanks,
me, I'm
Mike,
still
for
working on that.
correcting me. Yeah.
No, but this is a special prize, and if you're inclined to get scientists involved to figure out how to extract the DNA from the saliva and either clone him or whatever else you want to do,
MLS made me wait 2 whole days to just get hold of this. They're like, no, Soph, we're going to use it tomorrow. I'm like, come on, man, you must have 3 or 4 copies of this thing with all the presses he's doing in DC. No, just the one. MLS and all their budget. So you know what? We nabbed it. And Mikel did. He just projected a little, during his passionate, answers.
I have to ask you, during those passionate talks, did his hair move at all?
No, it didn't.
It's incredible. He's like a Lego man. His hair, it comes off like a block. It never moves. I'm so jealous.
And the rule is it's a chain of custody thing. As soon as that has been delivered to you, what you do with it is outside
it's
of
up
our
to
purview.
you. Yeah,
So,
totally. I can't wait to see who's going to win this. Make it someone epic, please.
Watch it be David Ziegler. Dale Carragher. Dale Carragher has won the placard. Let's see where we're going to send it to.
It's Jamie Carragher in disguise. That's exactly
about. What it is.
Beautiful. Congratulations to Dale Carragher, has won the most unique prize of all of them being offered. And thank you, Dale, for your donation. Thank you to our guests for the next hour who have been patiently waiting backstage for a little bit of a run over here. We appreciate it, but how do I?
Wait, you told Warren and I were on for 3 hours. We're done. We're done. We're just getting started.
Yeah, believe this. I've been waiting for years to get these guys on the podcast, and now I'm kicking them off. But we've got a format here. Will you please come back on with us? I'm sure I'll see you in the chat, and if I'm lucky enough, be on with Sophie the next time you're on. But now that
anytime.
Yeah, hopefully I haven't completely ruined the experience of podcasting with you. We'll do it again.
No, you did that with John Champion. You did that with John Champion earlier, mate.
Yeah, but he hasn't realized it yet because his internet connection is about an hour behind. So he's just now realizing how much of a dork I am. But,
how long you got to go? How many more hours is there?
2.
Two. Good luck.
25 down, 2 to go. I'm just really going to try to hold out to the last one to have a little bit of vodka with my sugar-free Red Bull.
Sophie, let us know if we need to send all Christmas gifts to Cyprus. We just need to. I just need to make sure.
Yes, I need my green.
Where are you in Cyprus?
I'm actually right now in Larnaca. Just on the border of the Turkish. line.
And Warren and those guys went out that night as well.
Yeah, they did. They totally did. But I'm ready for my green. I'm ready for my Greenville Triumph gear.
Yes, I need to know where to send it. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, sure. We'll send. Okay, I'll let you know. I'll WhatsApp you later.
Okay. Yep. Sounds great, guys. We did over the Gooners v Cancer. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Phenomenal.
Thank you, John.
It's Mike. It's all Mike. This guy right here, you guys. And I love Warren knows how much I love him. And this guy is the one that's done it all. It's amazing. He's had John Champion on, Henry Winter. He's had Super Kev on, Smudger. You guys, I mean, I know how much it means to Mike. I don't have to speak for him, but I will, because someone needs to tell him what an amazing job he's done. And it's incredible.
Well done, my man.
Thank you.
Well done.
I appreciate that. And
thanks, boys.
And we've just learned that our Champions League campaign is over. But now, take care, guys. Appreciate it.
Love you guys. Take care, man.
Bye, guys. See ya.
Bye. Bye.
Hey, Gooners. This is Alan Smith.
This is Kevin Campbell.
Lee Dixon. Colin Lewin.
This is Gary Lewin.
Charles Watts.
Dan Potts. James Benge.
Stanley.
Tom from the Gooner Talk here.
Ryan O'Castle.
Simon Collins. You may know me from the Evening Standard.
You may know me for my time at Arsenal.
You may know me from Arsenal or even the hybrid squad.
I'm a Birdcat Wonderland.
Being that physio, sat on the bench next to Arsenal with my rubber gloves on.
The former Arsenal physio.
The Emirates press box, from writing, from Twitter.
From goal.com, from Twitter, from YouTube.
Football is the beautiful game, and it brings us all together.
Sometimes there are things even more important than wins and losses.
And yes, even transfers.
Every 30 seconds, someone in this world gets diagnosed with blood cancer.
The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society works towards curing blood cancers
and provides support to families currently dealing with these diseases.
Gooners vs Cancer was started in 2017
by a lifelong Gooner who lost his father to leukemia way too young.
Since 2017, Gooners v Cancer has raised
$120,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
And we need your help to keep the fundraising going in this year's campaign.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
Every donation helps.
No matter the size.
And every donation enters you into the Gooner raffle,
where you have a great chance to win amazing Arsenal prizes,
including game tickets, stadium tours,
signed men and women's shirts,
and maybe a retro signed shirt by yours truly, Lee Dixon.
Me, yours truly.
Yours truly, Super Kev Campbell.
So much more.
It's easy to take part.
Just go to www.goonersvcancer.com
and donate directly to the charity.
Pick the raffle prizes you want to enter to win,
and wait for the drawings at the end of the campaign.
Again, that's www.goonersvscancer.com.
We all know that victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
Victory grows out of harmony.
With your help, we'll be victorious against blood cancer once and for all.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you for your support.